The film opens with the introduction of Sid, a senior in high school.
He's an unpopular man at school and wishes to remain so that he may spend his days there without incident.
He's devised 3 principles to do this, the first of which is to be as silent as possible because silence never leads to difficulties. His second guideline is to avoid sticking out and seeking the attention in school, so he takes on minor duties such as assisting at hockey games, serving as a backup in school, and playing in the yearly video game. Finally, his third guideline is to avoid the school's known bully named Chuck. Chuck is a troublemaker who hits everyone who annoys him, and he films these violent interactions for his YouTube channel. There was also an occasion in which he almost killed someone but managed to escape thanks to his affluent father.
Legal ramifications. Later on, we encounter a guy named Jim who is Sid's best buddy. Jim aspires to be a social media guru and he disagrees with Sid's way of life and the boundaries he's set for himself. While they're conversing, Sid notices a gorgeous lady named Tiff whom he's had a crush on for a long time. He recalls the last time he spoke with her when they were both young, 8 years old and already dancing on the ice.
He is afraid to declare his feelings because she is dating. Chuck later explained that he and Jim were wandering through the garden when their third acquaintance, Luna, arrived. Thrives. Jim and Luna clearly have affections for one another, but they deny it and frequently argue after school.
When Sid gets home, he finds both of his mothers waiting for him. They notify him that he has gotten a letter from the school and that the homecoming party is quickly approaching. Sid expresses his reluctance to go. His mother, on the other hand, assures him that it is a remarkable event that he will remember as he gets older. Sid, on the other hand, remains indifferent and says that he doesn't even have a date for the event that weekend.
Sid spends his time playing video games, and when he gets to school, he is fatigued from not sleeping for 72 hours. His lack of sleep begins to affect him in a variety of ways, from his eating to his lack of energy for sports.
In his tired state, he mistakenly criticizes Chuck, who subsequently assaults him viciously in front of his classmates. A teacher ultimately steps in, but Sid, who is still out of control, insults the instructor in front of everyone. By speaking up in front of the entire school, he has broken one of the 3 rules he set for himself. Chuck then threatens to murder Sid the next time they meet, and in the following scene, Sid awakens in a bed. And Jim is standing next to him, claiming that he has been asleep for 7 hours.
He also claims Chuck has been suspended for 2 weeks and must participate in an anger management program. This means Chuck will return to school on the day of the homecoming dance. Sid feels afraid upon hearing this and fears that the end of the school year will also be the end of his life. He's fed up with himself, because he broke his own rules. The next day, he goes to school, convinced that his life would end in 2 weeks and that he cannot leave the world without having done something enjoyable. Later, during a sexual education lesson, Sid gets up and challenges a female who is giving an abstinence sermon. He emphasizes vehemently that having personal desires is natural and that we should not be afraid to accept them. He believes that no one in this class is brave enough to voice their feelings. The kids appreciate his audacity, and they all begin to stand up and offer their opinions. He leaves the school feeling good about himself, but he's still surprised where he got this court. Meanwhile, Jim is proud of Sid, who has become a hero to others by expressing himself fearlessly. Sid then receives a message from an unknown number from a female who has long been interested in him and has now reached his phone. She compliments him on his boldness in class, and Sid is relieved to have met a girl who likes him. Sid leaves school to work as a pizza delivery man. He gets down with Jim and begins fishing after finishing his shifts. He assures Jim that he would undoubtedly murder Chuck when he returns in 2 weeks, so he decides to make a list of tasks he must do before he dies. Sid arrives to school with only 14 days remaining and, for the first time, he is unafraid. All of the pupils, including Jim, see him as a hero. Informs him about this. The entire school is abuzz about him. Just thereafter, Sid receives a message from the anonymous female, stating that she is watching him from afar. He surveys the area, and when he sees Tiff arriving, he assumes she's the one who's in trouble. Bring him. Tiff immediately comes up to Sid and apologizes for Chuck's actions. She informs him that she has split up with Chuck, which makes Sid pleased. She asks him whether he'll go to the night hockey game, to which he says yes. In the following scene, we meet Eric, the hockey team's standout player. His father is the team's coach. Who is his worst critic? If he does not do properly during halftime. The squad is losing as they enter the dressing room. The coach starts shouting at everyone in the changing room, especially at his son.
They're getting ready for the second half of the game when Sid observes Eric looking distressed and goes to speak with him. Eric confides in Sid that he dislikes playing hockey and that his desire is to be a dancer. Sid consoles him by telling him it's fine not to play if he doesn't want to. Sid then dresses in Eric's clothing and walks outdoors in his place. He's nervous at first and not playing well, but then he recalls. When he was younger, he was an excellent ice skater.
He also considers how his life is coming to an end. So he resolves to enjoy himself and give it his best. Sid begins to play like a pro, and the team ultimately triumphs when he removes his helmet, and everyone understands he is not Eric. And they're even more impressed because the coach is so taken with them that he gives them a position on the squad. Just thereafter, the mystery female texts him again, complimenting his outstanding performance. Since the presidential elections are the next day, we meet Megan, who is standing for the role. She approaches her classmates in quest of an assistant, but they all mock her Sid feeling for Megan, who jumps up to be her assistant, and Megan accepts. Sid goes to a student who sells drugs within the school since she has no other choices, and purchases some from him. Later, Sid finds that Eric has joined the dance team and is relieved that he has finally done what he enjoys. At night, Sid keeps conversing with the mystery girl he likes, ignorant of her actual intentions. Megan is extremely apprehensive about winning the student union president election 90 days later. Megan, on the other hand, has taken side medications by mistake, mistaking them for mints. Megan, who is using drugs for the first time in her life, is frightened of losing her job. Sid then decides to back her up. So he also takes drugs to reassure her that she is not alone when the time comes for their speeches. Both Megan and Sid lose their senses due to the drugs. They begin doing bizarre things like rapping and dancing on the stage, while the other students burst into law. After the next day, it's the school play and Sid notices Tiff rehearsing with a bully named John. Sid slyly puts something in John's makeup box which gives him a pink eye and prevents him from performing. As a result, Sid is offered the role and happily performs alongside Tiff. After the show, Sid takes the chance to ask Tiff out to a party. Sid, Jim, and Luna arrive at Tiff's house to pick her up in the following scenario. Jim and Luna are still squabbling, as they often do, but Sid meets Tiff enthusiastically. They all go to a classmate's house for a party, and Sid and Tiff have a fantastic time enjoying each other's company. Chuck, on the other hand, appears out of nowhere. Demanding to know why Tiff hasn't returned his calls, he discovers that he was let to leave his anger management class a week early. Chuck tries to grab Tiff, but Sid intervenes and grabs her. Chuck becomes enraged and threatens Sid, threatening to murder him. But then Chuck's automobile catches fire, and he runs to put it out. Meanwhile, he and Tiff make their way out of there and into a forest, where he makes an attempt to kiss her. Tiff, on the other hand, hesitates and tells him she doesn't have romantic feelings for him. She admits that she still loves Chuck and apologizes to Sid for deceiving him. Sid is taken aback since he mistook Tiff for the unknown person who was messaging him. Tiff, on the other hand, explains that she does not even have his phone number. Sid, heartbroken, returns home with Jim and Luna. The following day, Sid invites the strange female to see him, but she declines, claiming she isn't as daring as him. He then gets up and urges his pals to log out and go explore life outside of the computer screen. He impresses them by reminding them that there is more to life than video games. Just as he receives a text message from the unknown Earl, he finds a female in the room chuckling while holding a phone. He thinks she's the one and attempts to approach her, but she flees. When he finally catches up with her, the girl introduces herself as Kay. Sid is delighted and asks Katie out on a date after school, despite her embarrassment. Sid and Katie embark on a date and rapidly develop fond of one another. They exchange kisses and decide to start dating. While walking his dog one day, Jim notices Chuck and his pals in a vehicle. They offer to take him on a ride. Also, consider making a video together. Jim has always wanted to be famous, so he agrees with reservations. Sid comes at school the next day to discover that all of the classmates are upset with him. One of them shows him a video in which Jim gets intoxicated and spills all of the side secrets. Jim alleges in the video that Sid wrote a list of his last requests and even used medications. He admits to giving Sid pink eye to John. As a result, he backed out of the position at the last minute. He also reveals Sid's desire to date someone else after Tiff rejected him. As a result, all of the pupils despise Sid. He is booted off both the video game and hockey teams. Megan is also ousted as class president owing to drug use, and she is enraged. She then attempts to communicate with Katie, but learns that she has not arrived at school that day. Later, when Sid returns home, he finds Jim waiting for him, apologizing. Sid, on the other hand, is still upset and blames him for revealing his secrets for the sake of fame. He then returns to his room and attempts to apologize to Katie, but she refuses to forgive him. The next day, Luna pays a visit to Sid and begs him to forgive Jim, stating that Jim didn't want to disrespect him. Sid is hesitant to attend the homecoming party, but Luna pushes him to be bold like previously. She also discloses that she was the one who set fire to Chuck's car. Sid ultimately agrees to attend the celebration on the day of the homecoming party, and Sid and Jim reunite. Sid then approaches Katie, who remains silent. Still, Sid apologizes, stating that he had no intention of hurting her and admitting that she is the one female he has ever loved. He bids farewell and walks away, knowing that Chuck may kill him at any time. Later, Chuck comes at the party and viciously assaults Sid, forcing him to lose consciousness. Sid awakens in the hospital, Jim by his side. Jim admits that he, too, was attacked and begins to describe what happened after Sid became unconscious. In a flashback, we watch Jim assault Chuck to defend his friend, and then Luna joins in. Following this, Eric began hitting his father and declaring his desire to be a dancer. As several groups began fighting with each other, the celebration devolved into mayhem. Sid then exits the room and finds the hospital packed with the rest of the pupils. Meanwhile, Jim and Luna have finally voiced their love and are now dating. Chuck has also suffered severe injuries, and he is arrested for his actions. However, the remainder of the pupils are relieved. That's Sid. Even though he is still alive after all of the beatings, he ignores everyone else and rushes to Katie, urging her to forget all that has occurred and start over. She accepts, and the two start dancing in the hospital corridor. As the film comes to a close,